you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go. Welcome to the big show, my family friends. We certainly appreciate you guys being here. As always, we bring you the most amazing guests on the show. And as always, we have the best today. All the CEOs, the billionaires, the White House presidential advisors, the Pulitzer Prize winning authors, the amazing people with the amazing minds that share you their journeys of life and all the times that they went through, the things that they went through in life. Today, we have Michael Ungaro on the show with us today. He's the CEO visionary of the San Pedro Fish Market and Kings of Fish TV.com. He is the visionary behind the family business of the San Pedro Fish family, and originally started by his grandfather in 1956. The business is still family owned and operated and transitioning to the fourth generation, and in 6 decades, they've grown from a small 200 square foot fish market to the third highest grossing independent restaurant in the USA in 2022, serving over 2 million guests at their legacy locations on the Los Angeles waterfront. Michael doesn't think of the business as a restaurant, but rather as a media brand. It tells its story through social media channels with the family's Kings of Fish reality series. Welcome to the show, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Thanks for coming. We really appreciate it. Give us any .coms or websites you want people to go to find out more about you guys.
Sure. You can always visit sanpedrofish.com. That'll give you all of the information, our e-com, our locations, restaurant menus, specials, etc. And you can watch our web series. It's now being produced as a television series it's at kingsoffishtv.com.
There you go.
All the social handles are at San Pedro Fish.
And this is pretty interesting. You know, there's a lot of people over the last decade who've talked about how if you're a company, you need to, or a business, you need to think of yourself as a brand. And it sounds like you've been the proponent for converting, your family's business in the fish market to becoming an online brand and influence brand, et cetera, et cetera. Is that about right?
Yeah, it's true. One of the things that I noticed over the years was how important your narrative or your story is in your business. And what I started to notice is we weren't talking about it. We were head down, butt up working all the time. And as I started to look into social media, I would see people had created these stories about us that were not true. Like we were swap meat of seafood and owned by somebody else. And I thought, we're missing something here because we never cared about that. And it sort of took on a life of its own.
Yeah. So I think I saw some of those things online. I think they were blaming you for Taylor Swift taking over the Super Bowl. Is that true too?
That's one of them. Yeah, I think we put that one out.
And she owns the fish market, I think, evidently, or something. Or it's a plot. I don't know what it is.
There was something like that. There was one where there was an actual FBI report that was done on my grandfather, I guess.
Really?
Because he was a bookie back in the day.
Oh yeah.
And what the story was is that we had this like hidden vault under the business, and if if somebody could get in there, that you'd find it's all sand and dirt and oil because we're on an old oil well at the time. But so it was interesting, and that one got out of control.
You bring up a good point, because if you don't tell your story, someone else will, and it might not be the one you want them to tell, or it might be incorrect of some type.
Absolutely, that's absolutely 100% correct.
So that's own your story.
Yeah. And we had, we had this production company that came up to us. And at the time we were planning to set 3 Guinness World Records in a single day for a lobster festival that we used to do.
Wow.
And we did it for 20 some years at least. And so they're like, we think, you guys, we've done a couple things with you on different shows, the production company. We'd like to see what your family's like outside of just you and your brother with the cameras rolling while you're setting these 3 Guinness World Records. And they turned it into a sizzle reel and tried to shop it around. And it was kind of marketed as a Duck Dynasty with seafood.
Yeah, there you go.
At the time, Duck Dynasty kind of hit a wall in the media right when they were trying to sell it, so nobody wanted to touch it. But I looked at that and I'm like, this is really cool. I hadn't thought about doing this before, so we ended up just doing it on our own.
There you go. It was like Duck Dynasty, only you guys all have your teeth and don't date your relatives. Yeah, we got to throw some shit at Duck Dynasty. They're going to be we just had to use them for a joke there. So thanks to them. Send them a check, people. So Kings of Fish, the award-winning web series now made for TV. So you guys just decided to do your own then?
Yeah, so we started looking around, and at this particular time, which I think was 2017, streaming channels were taking over studios. There was some, and I'm not an expert in this, I didn't know, but some of the people in my network of friends were like, you're going to find that a lot of these guys that are in production and editing and doing things, they're looking for extra work because they're getting cut. The viewership's shutting down and there's a lot of disruption. So we were able to find some people that were willing to help us in that exact same situation. And they do shows like Bar Rescue and Below Deck and some of the different food shows. So, we made an offer. We think we have a great story. We'd like to tell it on social media. We want to control it on our own. I don't want it to get into TV and where we lose control of the story. And I think there's a lot of value to that. And there was. We won a bunch of awards. We had millions of views. I mean, it was really, I think we hit 50 million views at one point.
Holy crap.
Just managing it on our own. So now we're working with a distributor. It came to us during COVID when everything was shut down and everyone was watching TV. And we had switched over to Pepsi, which is a different story. But Pepsi's, listen, we'd like to pay you to produce episodes that have our name in it.
Oh,
but
wow.
22-minute episodes, like an actual TV series, not these little 5-minute ones you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So they're done. They're 99.9% done and in the can and ready to go. Now we're just kind of waiting on the coordination around oil. I think it's going to be an Amazon Prime, but there's those little details keep changing because it's taking a while to get it done.
This is exciting. We had Carol Baskin on for the Tiger King years ago, and I think when them and the Tiger King dude himself who went to jail, I think they both thought that it was going to be, exemplary, sort of like, hey, these are some really cool people helping tigers. And when they saw the final edit, they were like, wait, we're all the bad guys here. How did this turn out? That's kind of how reality TV works sometimes. So I think it's cool you guys are controlling the narrative and getting it out there. Let's get to the backbone of this business. How did it start? And tell us about some of the characters that built it and what their vision was.
Yeah, sure. So originally by my grandfather in 1956. And as the story goes, my dad and his best friend were 15. And he gave him the choice. He goes, you guys can go to school, I'll pay for it. Go to college, I'll pay for the whole thing, or you can go to work. And they didn't like school, so they went to work. It was 200 square feet. It was just a little local store in the waterfront LA harbor community, the city, San Pedro. Mm-hmm. And the real backstory is that my grandfather needed a way to show his income because he was a bookie. So this was like prevalent in town at the time.
So the FBI wasn't far off on that one.
Yeah. So he, they ran this business, and Tommy, who's my uncle, my dad's best friend, he's just a machine. He just pushed through with all these ideas. And, some of his friends had told me years ago, and we had career day when we were age 15 at high school, and everybody went around and said what we wanted to do. And Tommy's, I want to have the biggest fish market in town. That was his ambition as a kid, as a teenager. And so he pushed and eventually relocated down to the waterfront, took over a different location. And, the short version is that it went from 200 square feet to 55,000 square feet with 3,000 seats, serving 2 million people in 2022. And so we broke a lot of milestones, and the series really took us to a whole nother level. But the early vision was to have the seafood brand. And what was interesting is that I would look at what we did, because I was born, when I came into work, it was 1982, and we had to just been torn down, evicted, and had to rebuild the entire restaurant. And we reopened out of work. We were working in a parking lot for a year.
Wow.
And reopened in 1982 on Good Friday as San Pedro Fish Market. Ironically, that's happening right now. We got evicted, torn down, and we're rebuilding and working in a parking lot for the whole last year as I speak.
Holy crap.
So it's like we were prepared this time.
Yeah.
But as this was happening, they opened Good Friday, 1982. We had one of the worst El Niños, which might be happening again today based on the rain that's going on in LA right now.
Oh, yeah.
And freeways and roads are closed. It's crazy. So they reopen. It rains the whole summer. Everybody mortgaged their house to build this business. It's all outdoor seating, and they can't function.
Oh, no.
So what was happening is my uncle, Tommy, was like just doing everything. He was throwing everything against the wall to see what would stick. So he's, it's funny. I go to these Mexican food restaurants. They have this thing on the menu now called fajitas. Never seen it before. So he goes, we could do that with seafood. We'll contract out. We'll buy bell pepper, tomato, onion. We'll make our own Cajun sort of spice. And we have all this frozen seafood we were using for smoked fish at the time. We'll cut it up. We'll throw it on the grill with the veggies. We'll add red potatoes, maybe some garlic bread and tortillas, and see what happens. And it evolved into this phenomenon for us where we were selling 2,000 pounds of tomatoes, 2,000 pounds of onions, 2,000 pounds of bell pepper, potatoes, 12,000 garlic breads. And we got to the point where we were selling 200 tons of shrimp. Like those numbers were in the week.
Wow.
The shrimp was in the year,
Wow.
And so
now, was this part of the big shrimp tray I see on the website, the world famous shrimp?
Exactly. So as that evolved, people would say, "Hey, can I add lobster to this? Can I put?" So over the years, we just gave people the choice to pick anything they wanted out of our fresh case, and we would cook it that way for them. And it just evolved into this experiential situation where people were coming with 2 and 3 generations of family, driving from. So we're in LA, right? They're driving from Phoenix, they're driving from Las Vegas for the day. That's a 5-hour drive, and then going back the same day and spending the day with us. So we realized we'd become a tourist attraction with this experiential offering, and that's what we built off of in our media, social media, and that's what the series talks about, Kings of Fish.
There you go. You guys have multiple locations, and you guys also ship. So if people around the nation want to order it, they can have it shipped to them?
Yeah, you can have a world famous shrimp tray. There's a whole bunch of different choices on our website and also on goldbelly.com. And I think Amazon is still as active as well. And they're fresh, so they need to be cooked within a day or two. They're not freezable because it's fresh vegetables. They'll get ruined. And then you could plan around a party, a Super Bowl event, for example. We have a special for that right now. You can cook it. Cooks in 10 minutes, 12 minutes. Super simple. It's all pre-mixed, ready to go. Just put it in the frying pan or on an aluminum pan on your barbecue grill for a tailgate situation. It's great. Real simple, easy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you can order some for the Super Bowl real quick if you can get it there in time. I think is it this Sunday or next one? It's next Sunday, right?
And we have time, as long as you order. But I guess Wednesday before is probably
order up now for your Super Bowl tailgate party or whatever you're doing for the thing. So this is really great, and you guys are really expanding this. Whose idea was this? Was it your idea to take this to the next level and develop all this brand building?
Yeah, because I'm the only one in the family, for the most part, that left to do something else. I've worked. I actually did go to college. I didn't stay there and work. I worked in banking. I worked in insurance. Hated all of it. I've tried to open my own restaurant. Disaster, failure. Like all these terrible things happen, right? And I come back, and I'm like, I gotta come back. I need a job. I got a family. I got a little three daughters. What am I doing? And when I came back, my aunt, who was essentially our CFO, she got pancreatic cancer and died like very suddenly.
Oh no.
It was only 10 years older than me, 11 years older than me. So I'm sitting there with my sister, and she was her assistant, but she mostly was filing paperwork. She didn't really know what to do. So I'm sitting there going, okay, I work in an insurance company. This is an insurance issue. This is paperwork. We have to do that. I used to be a State Farm adjuster. I know what to do there. I used to be a banker. We got to do the bank. I own my own restaurant. We need the software for accounting. And all those failures came into play, and I was able to say, oh, shit, I know. Excuse my language. I know what to do here. I know what to do here with the business in a way that I never thought I'd be. It was a goosebump moment. Yeah. It's like all those failures were meant to happen. So from that point forward, what I was really looking at, we have plenty of people in the family running the business. They don't need another operator. But there's a lot of opportunity outside the 4 walls. And let's look and see what that is and what we can create there. And that's where I let us
expand the real vision. And I love it. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the great thing about reality TV, when it's not, too stupid, I never thought very highly of pawn shops. I think more highly of fish markets because they're tasty and they have fish and lobster. But, I never really thought very highly of pawn shops. I think when I was younger, I lost a few things to a pawn shop or two in my 20s. And, but, that pawn series they had on TV of the pawn shop in Vegas, that's fun to watch. And it's interesting because you get sold on maybe some of the different characters. You like one of the characters more than the others, and it brings kind of a humanity to a business and helps tell the story better. And people, it's a great way to amplify your message, I think.
Yeah, it's worked out really well for us. Yeah, because one of the things that was happening is in the last year. So where we're located in the LA waterfront, there's been a move to redevelop it. Mm-hmm. And there was always this question of, do we need to move? Are we part of it? Like, how do we coexist around this? And it went in a bunch of different directions over the decade with economic turns and political changes. Yeah. So now, as what I had been doing for the last 10 to 12 years is trying to figure out how, if people don't know who we are and what we do, why would they want us in this project? So I built our brand specifically so that we would be irreplaceable to the development, which is essentially what had happened. It's like because in the course of 10 years, we went from $10 million to $30 million. We were drawing in more people, and there's the only entity that isn't subsidized, the aquariums are subsidized, as an example, right? Mm-hmm. The government's sending the kids in there, so there's no you don't have to pay for your own money when the school bus shows up.
Yeah,
we don't have that luxury. We have to talk people into saying, "I know you only have so much money, spend it with us." Yeah. So when you compare us to those sort of businesses, only SeaWorld draws in more people than we do in the entire Western Seaboard. But we didn't know that, So as we were testing that and we're talking about it, we're like, okay, those numbers, we did parking studies and counted cars. We polled people. We checked in to our credit card company at the time was giving us data on where customers live, not an address, but just a dot on a map. Mm-hmm. So you can see there's a 100-mile radius before it drops off. And then we released the first episode of our web series, and it went viral. We were Instagram, at the same time, Instagram recognized us as one of the top 10 most Instagrammed restaurants in the country because of our customers paying themselves. That had nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
You know who's on there? Katz Deli and Cafe Du Monde and all these major brands around the country. I'm like, wow, we're in this category, like Nobu. It's like we belong there. And these things really started to take off. And then one of the companies that we were developing a relationship with, Food Beast was their name. They were kind of like the food channel for millennials. And they said, listen, we're producing our own content. We're trying to make shows. And if you give us your series to put on, we'll do a promotion for you. And I didn't know what any of that meant because I wasn't following them. But they created this video, and you can search it. It's called The Super Tray. If you search Food Beast and Super Tray, it should come up. This thing got 30 million views in the matter of 2 weeks. And people flew in from every country in the United States and other countries in a matter of, we went from a rainy day where we normally have a few hundred customers to we had something like 30,000 customers in a week.
Holy crap.
So it really showed me the story of power, it's the power of storytelling, control the story, the Instagram, all these things converged at the same time. So we just continued to build off of that, build relationships that way. And it's really worked out well for us.
There you go. Meet the Super Tray XXXL, San Pedro Fish Market.
That's the second one we did, actually.
Oh, there you go. Massive 100-pound seafood mountain. Yeah, it's going to take me a couple meals to complete that one. That was $1,200. You can order it, or let's see, depending on the fish, can cost up to $3,000.
Yeah, it depends what you put in it.
You definitely want the lobster there. I'm a big lobster fan. I love lobster.
Yeah.
I could eat it all day long.
Yeah, it's funny. That used to be prison food because they look like...
Did it really?
Yeah. If you look in the history of lobsters, Maine, they were mostly served to prisoners because no one wanted to touch these scary. I don't know how it changed to become like the delicacy it is now because it's so expensive.
Yeah, it's so good too. You know, I was in Denver once and I was really hungry and I really wanted lobster, and we closed some big deal. And I'd driven all over town to find this lobster place. And this is before GPS and I couldn't find it. And I go in and they had this giant 10-pound lobster on the wall. It was crazy. And I go in and they were all out of lobster. And the only thing they had was a 3 or 4 pound lobster. And they were all out of the 1s and 2s. And I'm like, fuck it, just give me one. I think it was a 4-pounder. I was just that hungry, man.
Huge.
And they brought it to me and I saw it and I just went, how the hell am I going to put this down? And like by that halfway through the meal, like the whole place was like cheering me on. Go, one more bite, one more bite. Yeah, that's awesome. A bit much, but yeah, I love the lobster. So you built this business, you got all the locations. What's the future vision of what you see your brand doing? Do you guys want to expand maybe nationwide, maybe, or?
I think that's long term. That's what we're looking to do for sure. One of the things that was interesting. So if we're going back to this eviction situation, which wasn't. It sounds terrible. It was really us trying to work around the Port of Los Angeles and developers to make sure we didn't stall their development because they're building a premier thing and we'll be part of it. But we didn't want to close down and then reopen, so we moved into this parking lot situation. And as this was happening, I had friends that are in real estate, commercial real estate. They're calling me going, for the amount of money you produce, the rent that you pay, the amount of customers, I don't understand why you don't have every broker in the country knocking your door down to give you some sort of an offer to move. That is weird. I thought I was doing a pretty good job telling our story. So now what we started doing is we started kind of putting ourselves out there, because although this is funny, right? We move into this parking lot again, since 1982, we're now in a parking lot again. And this time we were ready. We rented FEMA trailers that work as kitchens. We rented bathrooms. We rented generators. We're in a parking lot, and we put 1,000 seats in there instead of 3,000. All we could fit is 1,000. And we're still producing $1 to $1.2 million a month in sales. So it's like we're still in the top 50 restaurants in the top 1% in the country out of a parking lot, running a temporary business at a fraction of the cost of opening a new restaurant.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there going, should this be the model? Because you spent $10 million to build a restaurant from the ground up. And we're kind of going back and forth. And in the interim, like kind of in between and before and after this, the city of Monterey, which is where the aquarium is, California, they had put out a request for proposal for a restaurant space. And we submitted and we won the bid. And I'm like, I can't do this because I don't know what's going to happen with this parking lot eviction situation. And they're like, no, we really want you here. So that might be a new opportunity. We're working with them to see if we can make that work. I reached out to the city of Redondo Beach, and they're like, we'd love to have you. We just talked to San Diego. We just had a meeting with Anaheim on prospective locations. So I'm finding now that when people find out what we're able to do and produce, they're open to working with us, coordinating with us, helping us. And that's so really what I'm after right now is we're looking at locations, we're looking at financial opportunities to help finance these. And I'm thinking the farthest we'll go, we want to stay on the waterfront for the first phase of this expansion, and then ultimately Las Vegas and Phoenix, because we have huge customer base in both cities. So
dude, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Las Vegas. There's so many restaurants and chefs that they're killing it in Las Vegas, New York, or California or New York. They go to Las Vegas, and the stupid money that people will pay for a bottle of champagne or an upgrade, and the stupid stuff they'll pay. They're just like everybody that moves. I lived in Vegas for 20 years. Every chef and restaurant that moves to Vegas, there's different ways to make it to kind of target high rollers and stuff. And the amount of money they'll pay, they're like, nobody will jack up buying extra crazy stuff like Vegas. It's just insane.
There was a customer of ours, and he lived locally. He came to me one day. He goes, my family's moving to Vegas, and we're going to open a seafood restaurant. It's going to be more kind of a Mexican-style seafood on East Coast. Mm-hmm. Okay. He goes, I want to put your shrimp tray on the menu. If that's okay with you, I'll sign whatever. But I want to buy your seasoning so that I can make sure it's authentic. And I go, yeah, whatever. I don't think much of it. I don't have time to figure out the contract. I just give him the seasoning. And he's buying like 200-pound barrels of it.
Holy crap.
And I'm like, what the hell's going on out there? So my brothers went out there with some employees to check it out. I walk in and got like a standing ovation from the customer base.
Wow.
It was like we drive out there all the time. It's so convenient to have this in our area. So I know we have a market there for it. I just haven't figured out exactly the logistics. So one of the things that we're doing is, it's not. So I'm third generation going on the fourth generation. Most businesses don't survive that. And that's so part of my plan, you asked me before, is how do we remove ourselves from the operations side and just focus on being owners and start to replace ourselves with professionals and up our game. So that's what we've been doing. We brought in a COO, Greg Rinaldi, great guy. He was with Del Frisco's and Ruth Chris and a local steakhouse and seafood chain here in LA area called King's Fish House and 555. So he's come in right in time because he's a former baseball player too. So he's very much like team oriented. He's right in there cheering everybody on, building up the team, really transformed the culture. So between him and I working together, we've been able to make some really amazing things happen, especially making that parking lot function. Matter of fact, not only is the parking lot a miracle, we found out 3 days ago we had to move out of it to another parking lot 100 yards away because they realized they got to tear it up to pull utilities for the project. My entire team in 3 days has moved this thing 100 yards to a different parking lot.
Wow.
And we'll be over by the weekend.
They're doing a real revision down there. I haven't been down there for a while. I used to go to Long Beach usually to go to Catalina Island and stuff. Yeah, but yeah, they're doing some work down there.
It's called West Harbor. You can search it. They have all their own sites, and we're about to sign a lease with them for the. So what we're doing there is they have the space inside of the West Harbor development is just basically be a ground lease, and we'll have to build our own building, but they have to finish all their infrastructure work first. So they have a North Park area, and the plans for that are kind of way off in the future. So what we're designing, and it's going to cost us about $1 million, but it'll be done by April, will be a semi-permanent location that's going to be built out of customized like shipping containers where they're fabricating them to our specs, so we can fill them with kitchen equipment, dishwashing equipment. We'll have a deck built. We're using Core Events. They do Coachella and a bunch of other big concert venues, and they're local. And so between them and the contractor we've hired, we're breaking ground now to hook into utilities, and actually have a semi-permanent location with 2,000 seats on over 30,000 square feet. Now, then we'll start building our permanent location about 100 yards, basically where we started, a year ago. And we may keep them both, or we may just say, hey, let's unplug this thing and move it to Vegas and see if it works somewhere out there. Let's move it to Phoenix and see if it works somewhere out there. So we're still kind of playing around with what the ideal situation is, but we're looking for help. We're looking for money. We're looking for locations. And so, this helps me get the word out. So I do appreciate that. Thank you.
I wonder if a casino would be interested in bringing you on board, but then you might have to, give them a cut of the action. And they like to kind of have their own restaurants. But I know there's a lot of them that brought in, what's that one guy, Bobby Flay and different things and stuff. But the prices they charge at these places are just extraordinary, man.
I added his seafood concept in Caesars, I think a year ago, year and a half. It's really similar to what we do, but it's a little more Mediterranean based. It was really good, but I'm like, I know that fish cost $2, but I just paid $50 for it.
You know what you could do? I've been seeing how they built the Raider Stadium, and they've got like crazy shit in there. I just saw the million. They have a wing or the ground floor for the Wynn people, and it'll cost you like $1 million to be in the front row on the ground in the Wynn suite, I guess, or something, to be in the front row. $1 million a pop. Then there's 10 or 15 people that can be there, and then from there it kind of goes down if you want to be in the back rows. But they have their own suite, their own restaurants and shit. So I know the Oakland A's are supposed to tear down the Tropicana and then go there. That. But even a standalone restaurant, I mean, Vegas has great standalone restaurants everywhere, all over the place. And, we love to eat. And there you go.
I went to Mastrioni's.
Mastrioni's? Yeah. Was that an Italian place, I think it is?
Yeah, their son married my best friend's daughter. And so we went to eat that. And I was actually super impressed. Really, really good food. Yeah. And then we went to the wedding at a reservation right outside of town. Right? Yeah,
it's wild, the stuff they have there. But yeah, the amount of money, especially in the casinos that they charge people, is just stupid, insane. You can't be in the casino and not spend $25 to $50 for eating anything in there. There's no McDonald's in the casinos. There might be one at Circus.
I spent way too much time in Vegas to know that I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah. There you go. How did you guys survive working with family all these years? It's really tough to work with family, especially, when you get down the line of multi-generations. In-N-Out Burger, they had a lot of infighting there. How have you guys survived that?
It's been a challenge. There have been some issues. I get along really well with my brothers and sisters. We have our differences and there's been fights, but I brought in help, actually. I brought in a lot of help. And I think that's made a big transition. One of the things that I learned in study is people really only listen to what they care about. Everything else just kind of goes around. And it's learning to speak to those things like, hey, do you want to be able to feed your family? Because if we fight, that might go away. Yeah. And we had one family member because we've had people that have died, and sometimes, the people that are inheriting those shares aren't always part of the business, and we've had some that have gone really south. We've had multiple lawsuits that we've had to settle. That's been a learning experience for me.
So it sounds like you have had some fun, yeah.
Yeah, we've had some fun. But what we've done is we've settled all of it. We've changed operating agreements to prevent issues in the future. We've given people a way out. Like, you don't want to be part of it. There's buyout options now. And I had to kind of upgrade this because, again, head down, butt up. Nobody worries about these. Oh, that'll never happen. Just stay busy. Everything's going to be fine. I'll talk to my uncle sometimes because, he's worked 7 days a week for the most part since he's 15. And I'll say, like, how did you get to this point? Because this stuff's driving me crazy. Some of these arguments are dumb. There's no reason for them. And he goes, I just went down there and worked. I go, okay. So you just let it fester till me have to do it.
So now it's your problem.
But we fixed it, and I don't want to undersell what he created. He was really. I have one consultant I work with who helps a lot with political stuff, and he goes, "You know what I've noticed with you guys is you're like the seafood diplomat. You're friends with everybody. You barely choose a side. You try to keep everybody happy, and it's served you well up to this point. You don't have any enemies. It's weird."
There you go.
So
like Bill Clinton getting Nasser Arafat and the Palestinian guy together and
getting them together,
White House lawn, shaking hands. I mean, it's a tough thing to navigate. I mean, the one thing we always say about partnerships is everyone loves each other and friendly when you're starting the business. Oh yeah, we're going to be millionaires. I love you, man. But when that money gets on the table, man, money and power, people change, and then you find out who you're really doing business with. I imagine.
You say it. It's there's this in family businesses. The distinctions are usually missing is fair and equal. Like they should be the same. Mm-hmm. But I work 100 hours and you work 10, and everything's equal. There's a problem with that. So you either have to be willing to accept it and put a value on the peace on the holidays, or you fight and try to work it out. You had a friend of mine on not too long ago, Ron Macklin.
Yeah.
He had this book, Everybody's Afraid, that came out.
Yeah.
I've known Ron for many, many years, and we brought him in to help everybody. Because I'm like, Ron, I got a lot of problems here. I know people that aren't getting along. We're fighting. When we tried to open new restaurants, because I was looking at what we were doing, and I'm like, this is actually we will open a kitchen inside of our existing restaurant, and within a weekend, everyone knows how to run it. How hard would it be to put it in a different city instead of inside the four walls of work? Because we had a lot of space. Mm-hmm. And I was so wrong when we did that, because what I didn't do is ask everybody, who do you think we are? What's our brand? What's our core values? Who are we as a company? Everybody had a different opinion, and they still do, by the way. So what was happening is we'd open these things, and we ultimately closed 2 of them because the smaller model doesn't work for us. The bigger one we kept. It does work well. But 10,000 square feet is great for us. 2,000 is different because you can't screw up. There's no room for error in 2,000 square feet restaurant because the margins are so small. So when you have 5 different family members that go in and tell them, you know what, throw some ramen on the menu. That's a good idea. Let's try it. And the cooks are like, what? I thought we were doing shrimp trays. What are we doing here? And so they don't know who to listen to. And it creates chaos in operations. So I had to really move everybody out and bring other people in. Yeah. And that's helped, because now people can see, okay, I'm better off having somebody else do this. But the challenge is when all you've ever done is one thing your whole life, and I'm different that way because I've worked in other places. Yeah, my family, this is all they've done. Mm-hmm. So you're really messing with their identity at their core. And where Ron's system was helpful is, they're just scared. It's just figuring out like how to lower their shields and really feel valued. It's not always about how much money they're making. It's just they want to be able to contribute and be heard and give them a voice. I'm like, it's so genius. Yeah. And that's really what we've worked on, and it's helped a lot.
His book, Everyone is Afraid, A Fable of Fear, Friendship, and Flourishing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great example of. So he offers his 18-week program. I'll give you an example. I'm thinking there's nobody in here, because I've known these guys that work for us, some of them since high school, and I could never see an opportunity where they wanted to take on extra responsibility and learn and do something. They just want to show up, get a check, go home, but they really loved working there. It wasn't like they weren't soldiers, if you will. We're here to stick down. If we're getting evicted, we'll move everything, no problem. But hey, I'm not going back to school. Don't try to teach me something. That's hard. I just want to work. I just want to be a machine. So Ron's offering this 18-week program, and there's reading and there's videos and there's calls. I'm like, no one's going to do this shit. I'm in my mind. I'm in the story that this is a waste. But I'm still want to help everybody. And I know Ron's. I'm like, let's try it. I'm willing to try anything.
Yeah.
They said, hey, there's a completion dinner. You should go. You're the CEO. I'm like, completion of what? The 18 weeks. A bunch of people did it. Shut up. So I go to this dinner, and there's this table of all of our chefs and cooks and managers and security guards, and they're sharing these stories about how the 18 weeks changed their freaking life, saved their marriages. They're better team members in the kitchen. They didn't understand how they were being, like, it was so transformational to see. I'm almost crying, and I'm like, Ron, the hell did you do? I better take the 18 weeks myself. I didn't even do it. So I go through it, and I'm like, this is awesome. I didn't see it. And then the book came out afterwards as kind of a supplemental to that. So that has been a huge, huge difference, because people that were working for us were stuck. Are you owners or operators? I don't have to take orders from. And so this helped align it. Then we used something else called the Entrepreneur Operating System, or EOS, which is, I had another friend that was teaching it. They call it an implementer. They come in and help you implement it. And so between these two things, they work together really well, because EOS is essentially around self-led teams being self-accountable. And Ron's system is teaching people how to do that with each other. It's kind of like a Ted Lasso thing. If you ever watch Ted Lasso, Ron's offering it. What Ron's teaching is basically what Ted Lasso's doing as a fun thing in the series. So when you take that and you mix it with EOS, you're like, oh my God, everybody believes in one another. They can get their own stuff done. And then you have the structure of EOS to know what their role is in the company and keep it going on a quarterly basis. So those two things have been really transformational for our company. I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't come across both of them.
That is awesome. Getting people heard, dealing with their fears. You know, I mean, I think the in and out infights were pretty destructive to the family. And I think there's somebody who wrote a book. We're still trying to get on them. But yeah, it can be hard because people do the thing. And then you have, you know, I've been in businesses where I do most of the work and somehow people are taking home half because we didn't structure the partnership right. And you're just like, this doesn't seem fair anymore.
Something's wrong here.
Something's wrong here. I don't know.
When in the city we grew up in, like San Pedro, or, you know, so people are like, why don't you say San Pedro? You can pronounce it Pedro, but I'll know you're not from there. That's the trick.
So it's San Pedro then.
So it's Pedro, yeah. And I've heard different reasons for that. One of it's because in Portuguese, the pronunciation is a little different. There's a big Portuguese population that originally started the town. But what I was going to say is the majority of seafood came through our town for a long, long time. And it was owned by specific Croatian and Italian families. And as we were working with them, we were doing the retail part of it. They were doing the wholesale. Actually, some of these families set up distribution across the country for squid and octopus and tuna and different things. And what my uncle had watched growing up around these guys, because these were his mentors, is how the families eventually started to fight one another and the businesses fall apart.
Yeah.
And he had all these terrible stories. It was like his fear that this could happen. So when it started to happen to us, we were able to put a stop to it, solve it, and fix it to not happen again.
Yeah. Everybody will fight over the baby and kill the baby, or, you know, whatever. Yeah. Throw the baby out with the bathwater sort of thing. Yeah, kill the golden goose. You guys had gross sales making you guys your third highest grossing independent restaurant in the U.S. in 2022. You sold more Modelo than Angel Stadium and attract more visitors than anyone in the West Coast, second only to SeaWorld. And you have 4 Guinness Book World Records. So congratulations. Give us your final thoughts. Tell people where to check you out on the internet as we go out.
Right. So go to www.sanpedrofish.com, or you can go to Instagram and Facebook. We're at San Pedro Fish, TikTok as well. It's all at San Pedro Fish. And if you want to check out the web series, you can go to kingsoffishtv.com, where we have a trailer for the new season.
There you go.
Exciting.
Yeah, this would be fun to watch on TV. I like how you guys control it. You can't have any of that. There was some shows that with that Burnett guy who created reality TV, where they just had to, if they ended up with a mess, they'd have to go back and just make people the bad guy they didn't have to find videos that made them look bad throughout their videotaping. Just throw them under the bus. It didn't work out.
Well, you know, the unexpected eviction situation created an entire background storyline that
really?
Yeah, because we had a different idea for the season, and then it was like, crap, we got to leave. They're tearing our building down. So we were able to re-edit what we were doing as if it's happening as we're being evicted. And it actually worked out much better. So you have all these, we're trying to open a new restaurant, we're trying to do this. We were doing all those things, but it gave us the opportunity to really have the eviction as the back. And we were doing them all because we didn't know if we are going to get evicted. So when it actually happened, we're like, okay, we could just put all this stuff together now, and it would actually be more symmetrical and more timeline and actually much more dramatic.
I love it.
Much more.
Maybe we should create a reality show for the Chris Voss show. We can film the behind the scenes.
I'll be there.
No one wants to see that.
Just give me a gopher role. I'll be like the guy that's always breaking something and ruining this audio in the back.
Yeah, I'd have to come up with some people I can blame for stuff. Like I need a staff that I can yell at and berate. I don't know what's that one. There's some people do on TikTok with their things. It's kind of like Howard Stern, where, you know, Howard Stern always, if he didn't have a guest or an interviewer, you'd be like, hey, there must be not a good guest on today because they're infighting at the show.
Yeah, right.
You know, so have to be something like that. There you go. It was wonderful to have you on, Michael. Great to hear that your family has survived all the troubles of family businesses, and you guys are just kicking ass. I'll look forward to you coming to Vegas soon. Hopefully, I'll just put that on you. So thank you very much. Give us the .coms one more time as we go out.
SanPedroFish.com, KingsOfFishTV.com.
And you can order it around the nation, folks. Order up your own shrimp tray. Sounds like fun. There you go.
Sure.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, all those crazy places we're on the internet. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time.